Hi everyone. Now I've got everything ready for the season. I just thought I'd try and help a few people who might be a bit newer to the game out, and go over a few things. Now, caveat: I am not by any means one of the top racers out there. I'm normally hanging around the F and H finals, but I like to think I've improved and learnt a lot while I've been doing nationals, and I certainly seem to be able to do things on a little bit more of a budget than some of the people that are out there. So I thought I'd try and help a few people out, because we hear a lot of complaints and people saying it's really expensive, and it can be, but there are ways that you can make things, well, make those pounds go a little bit further. So first of all, I thought I'd cover electrics really. So I race three classes at the moment. I race GT12, I'm trying my hand at LMP, such as it is, and I run GTR, which is what this big beast over here is. They all run the same power plant. They all run the 1S 13.5 turn systems. So it's all the same. So, and because I've got them set up with my three different iterations, it provides a handy demonstration. So, first of all, I think one of the best things to look at is this one. So over here, I've got what I first started out with really in terms of electrics. So I'm going to use my driver as a pointer here. So here we've got the Trackstar Gen 2, as it's called. It comes from Hobby King, brand new. It's about 40 quid. At most clubs, you can pick these up for about 20 to 25. Sometimes they need programming into blinky mode, we'll come to that later, but they are a cracking little speedo. Up until last year, I believe one of the A finalists actually had one of these. They are by no means slow speedos. There are benefits to the more pricey speedos, but these will get you going, and the best bit is because they're specialist as 1S, they're designed to work with the 3.7 volt batteries straight away. There's no messing around or electrics you need to do. You can literally just follow the instructions, put them in the car, and they work. I've also got my KO servo. Now, that was quite a pricey servo, brand new, but I kept my eye out and managed to pick one up for second hand for about 50 quid. I think they were 80 new. So if you keep your eye out, you can get the good branded gear that's reliable quite cheaply. It's not the only way of doing it, but it's the way I prefer, because I hate nothing. There's nothing worse in my mind than going on a race night and then having electrical gremlins. So I like things to be nice and reliable. If the car hits the wall and I break it, that's me, but I just hate that. So yeah, so that's my thing. And then we got the PT on top of it and my receiver. I used to run Spectrum as radio gear, which was brilliant. I think it cost me about £150 for the transmitter and the receiver. Really good stuff. It's a wheel transmitter if you're not aware of them. I now run a Samoa purely because the Spectrum wore out. And after 3 years I had a little bit of a bonus from work, and I thought, nah, I'll treat myself. My Samoa is the MT44. It was about 240 quid, and it came with one of these snazzy little receivers that have a built-in aerial. So, and I've sort of slowly got hold of a couple more of those to build up the rest of the cars. But that's simple. Moving on the speedos, the next one up. So what I replaced that thing with is this, which is all hidden underneath this big shock here. So that is an LRP Flow, which is a speedo that's several years old now. It came originally in a buggy, and it's actually a 2S speedo. It's the same, you could run a touring car on that, you could run a buggy on that, you can run anything. What you'd have to do in these cases is run a thing called a booster, which is what's underneath the switch here. You can just about see 1S there. That's a Hobbywing one. I got that for about 20 quid from MB Models, I think. But there's, other retailers are available. And what that does is it replaces the battery circuitry in the speedo so that you can run 1S instead of 2S. batteries. It requires a little bit of soldering to set up. It's not, you know, it's all within your means. It's not too difficult, but it is a little bit more complicated to set up. But the advantage is you can run any 2S speedo like that with one of those boosters pretty much. And the 2S speedos can come in a lot cheaper. So, you know, if you've got an old one, or you've got an old one kicking around from, you know, running the buggy back in the day, or running a touring car, you can get yourself going on a 1S setup by just buying that booster and get yourself going in that case. Finally, oh, actually, on that car, while we come to, is one of the other options I had on the split servo, which is the Servos. They do this one, which is a 1251, which is the low profile 10th scale one, and they do a 12th scale one, which the number of it I forget, that's also really reasonably priced. You can pick those up second hand for about 30 quid, and that will get you going. Yeah, they're perfectly adequate, perfectly good. Finally, we come to my favourite car, which is my GT12. And in this one, I've got the very popular Hobbywing XR10 Pro 1S. Now, I didn't get that new. They're about 170 or 180 pounds. They're quite a lot of money, really. Like the Track Start, it's built in, so you don't need to run a booster or anything. It's a specialist servo. You can pick these up for under 100 quid if you're prepared to wait, and you keep an eye on the Facebook groups and eBay and so on. And they're brilliant. You know, most of the A-Finals running that, or another brand's equivalent, and yeah, they're very, very quick and very, very reliable. They've got one of the best battery circuits, because basically they have a booster circuit built in. That's how the 1S speedos work, and they've got one of the strongest booster circuits built in of all of them. So much so, you might notice on this Trackstar, you've got this capacitor here. Those capacitors are all built in to the casing on the XR10, so it's very, very neat, and it helps with, you know, the 12 scale cars where you've got smaller packaging and so on. So yeah, that's about it on that one. I think in that car I'm running a Samoa servo, because I think, again, I had a birthday present and thought I'll treat myself, and I really like it. So motors. Now this is the big bugbear. So motors are a bit of a thing. There is a price limit on the list. They cannot cost more than £90. Now, in other markets, they can cost more than that, and yeah, all kinds of things, and there's lots and lots of controversy over it. But basically, it boils down to this: as long as your motor is reasonably reliable, clean, and I would say is less than 3 years old, you should be fine. They do age. The rotors in them as they go up, get hot, cool down, get hot, cool down. They sort of go off and become less strong. But that doesn't mean that the motor goes slower. It just means that it's more prone to revving and not got as much torque. So if you gear down a tooth, you can sometimes get back that speed. So in these cars, in my GT12, I've got the Motive MCR, because I again got that second hand for about £50. I didn't buy it new. I confess, in the LMP, I did buy that one new, but that's because there was a really good special offer on, and I got it for £60. And in my GTR, I have my old Trinity, which used to be in the GT12. Now it's in my GTR. It's still quick in there, and to be honest, if the Motive hadn't come up, I would probably still be running that Trinity in my GT12, because it's perfectly adequate. The trick is, we'll learn the motor, because they're all different. Okay, and the Motives are very, very torquey. If I dig out my Reedy with me, I have a Reedy S Plus, which is here. So I have a Reedy S Plus. You might remember what those look like. That thing is ridiculously revvy. Okay, you have to gear it much below what you'd gear anything else at. That's just how it works. It doesn't have much torque, and it needs the gearing. And you get to know a motor as you run it, and you know what it needs, and you have to keep racing at club until you figure out what gearing you need. But there's no need to buy a new motor even every year, I would say. About once a year is how often I've normally done it. But I don't buy my motors new. This Trinity motor here is 2.5 years old now, and that motive there is just 12 months old now. So because the guy who had it before me had it for the previous season, so it will be its second season. So, and they're perfectly good, and they're perfectly quick, and you can have a lot of fun, because when you're not in the A and B finals, it's about your driving less than having the latest gear, and I cannot stress that enough. When you're chasing laps as opposed to seconds, what I call it is, that's how I call it. I say I'm chasing laps, not seconds. When I'm in that position, I'm going to gain more time and more laps out of driving the thing consistently and not crashing than I'm going to gain by having the latest gear. So as long as it's reliable, I'm happy, and I think that can help put things in perspective. So hopefully that helped. It's my first time doing any of this, so please be gentle. And yeah, I'm planning on doing a few more of these things. One of them is tyres coming up, because tyres, especially these foam tyres, are a big deal. They're quite a steep learning curve, and I thought I'd share a few things. So, all right, thanks very much, guys.